ॐ दक्षिणास्य समारम्भा शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमा अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्ता स्मर्या गुरुपरम्परा श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। परिज्ञानाश्रम श्रीगुरुशङ्कर परिज्ञानाश्रम शङ्कर सद्गुरु केशव वामन कृष्ण पाण्डुरङ्ग आनन्द परिज्ञान गुरु सद्यो जात शङ्कर सद्गुरु गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम् यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तं न विदुःसुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः। Now Krishna taught Arjuna that, look, you are not the body mind sense complex, nor are these people whom you call your swajanas are the body mind sense complexes. All of us, all the jivas, all of us, including humans and all other jivas, are Atma Swarupas, and this body mind sense complex is a mere anatma, matter principle, which is very loosely associated with this consciousness Swarupa, Atma Swarupa. And ultimately, what you are is that awareness, consciousness, Atma, not the body mind sense complex. Now, let us see what this knowledge is about. Now, it is very difficult for us who have always had a vision that I am the body mind sense complex. And what is Vedanta or Shastra Pramana trying to do? To make me change my orientation and look at myself as the consciousness Swarupa Atma and not as the Anatma body mind sense complex. And of course, it takes me a long time because I'm habituated to thinking. I am conditioned to thinking that I'm the body mind sense complexes. It is not only from this life, but from many, many lives I have been thinking of myself as the body mind sense complex. Now, what is the purpose of Shastra, or what is the purpose of Vedanta? Now, Vedanta, when it tells me something, it is a pramanam, it is a valid instrument of knowledge, and what it is trying to do is to tell me a fact by which I change the habitual way of looking at myself. Now let's see how this knowledge works. Now, when knowledge works, there is nothing to be done by me. I have to expose myself to a valid source of knowledge. I have to expose my intellect, my buddhi to a valid source of knowledge. And when the pramana is the correct pramana, when the source of knowledge is correct, what happens is knowledge silently takes place. There is no effort on the part of the pramana. There is no effort on the part of the one who's seeing it. When I open my eyes, I don't have to make an effort to see what is there in front of me, right? Automatically, when the pramana, my eyes are open, that knowledge of what I see is effortless, it is silent. Similarly, the knowledge that Vedanta gives as a pramana, when the prepared intellect is exposed to this knowledge, is something which happens silently, effortlessly, without any noise. And what it does is it silently removes that wrong idea or the misconception I had. My misconception is that I'm the body mind sense complex. But when I expose my intellect to Vedanta, the pramana works in such a way that this knowledge happens simultaneously, effortlessly, and silently. And it removes my misconception and makes me see the things as they are, the right perception. Now, let me give you an example. This is the example generally given in, mostly Vedanta. Now, Karna in Mahabharata, since we are in Bhagavad Gita, Karna was actually a Pandava, right? He's actually a Kunti Putra Kaunteya. But the thing is, he does not know that he is Kaunteya. And he has a misconception about himself that he is a Sutaputra, Radheya, and he is a Kshatriya. That means he is not a Kshatriya. And this misconception that I am not a Kshatriya and I'm, not really one of the Pandavas. He doesn't know who he is. He only knows that he is Radheya. He is a Sutaputra. But then that is something which is making him feel that kind of a samsaritvam that he was feeling. His rage, his feeling of sadness, his incompleteness was because he did not know really who he was. Everybody made fun of him. Draupadi made fun of him, saying that you are a Sutaputra, so I don't want you to, I don't want to do anything with you, in the Swayambara. At the same time, even his guru, Parashurama, when he learned that he is a Kshatriya, he abandoned him. He told him, this Vidya that I have given you will never come to your help whenever you need it. Now, what is it that has made Karna a samsari? A misunderstanding and a misconception that he is a Kshatriya and he is a Radheya Sutaputra. Now, what happens? In the war, Kunti goes to Karna and tells him, look, Karna, I am telling you that you are my son. You are Kaunteya. You are the senior most of the Pandavas. Now, what happened to Karna? He had a misconception that he is, a Sutaputra, a Kshatriya. But when he exposed himself, his intellect, to the right pramana. Now, Kunti is the right pramana, right? Who else can be a more valid source of knowledge to reveal Karna, his source, that he is a Kshatriya and he is a Kunti Putra? What more better pramana can be there than Kunti herself? Now Kunti goes to him and tells him, you are not Radheya, you are not a Kshatriya, you are a Kshatriya, you are one of the Pandavas, you are my eldest son. So when that pramana goes, when that pramana is heard, what happens to Karna? Is there any noise? Is there any, in our television serial, they may show all kinds of noises and, face showing Karna's face, Kunti's face from far and near and all. But actually what happens when that knowledge happens? It's a quiet and effortless knowledge where I am an Akshatriya Sutaputra is erased from Karna's mind, intellect. And now he knows that doubtlessly he is a Pandava, he is a Kunti Putra. This is what happens in any knowledge. Any other knowledge, that is knowledge of the worldly things like objects outside, we can confirm it and we can, reiterate it. But what happens in Atmajnana? Atmajnana is about myself. It is not about an object. It is me about whom I want to know. And the only pramana that is available is only Vedanta pramana. And when I expose my intellect to Vedanta, and Vedanta Pramana says that you are not the body mind sense complex, you are this Atma Swarupa, this knowledge works. And at least initially, that intellectually, I have understood because of my Shraddha that I'm not this body mind complex, but I'm awareness, consciousness, Atma Swarupa. And since this kind of a mistaken knowledge or misunderstanding that I'm the body mind sense complex has been there for many, many lives, this habitual thinking pattern of mine requires some time for me to get used to the new knowledge and assimilate this knowledge. And the process of assimilating this knowledge, which is doubtless in me, is called as the process of Nididhyasana, which I talked about last time and which is going to come in the 6th chapter. You know, the whole chapter is dedicated by Lord Krishna to Nididhyasana. Now, in the 25th verse, which we saw last time, now this knowledge about Krishna giving Arjuna this knowledge about what you are. You are not the Anatma body mind, but you are the consciousness Swarupa, Atma Swarupa, Atma itself. And so are the rest of us. So is everybody. Now, Krishna has talked from the 12th verse to the 25th verse from the highest angle, what is called as the Paramarthika Satyam, and he has talked from that angle. Now he knows that Arjuna is still not a prepared intellect, and Arjuna still, has to do a lot of Nididhyasanam to really assimilate this knowledge. But now, what is the purpose of Krishna? The purpose of Krishna is now to make Arjuna fight this war. Now he has talked from the highest level, the Paramarthika level. He has introduced Arjuna to Vedanta, and in the next, 18 chapters, next 16 chapters, he's going to go on telling Arjuna again and again and again, which becomes a sort of Nididhyasana for Arjuna, ultimately till he understands that, yes, I'm not this body mind sense complex. But now, with this, the 25th verse, the highest point of view from which Krishna wants to talk to Arjuna is over. Now, Krishna knows that, like any of us, Arjuna has not really understood this because it is not so easy to understand in 12 verses. These 12 verses are the entire saram or the entire summary of entire Vedanta. And Krishna cannot go on talking about this. He has to now motivate Arjuna to fight this war. So now he comes down one level lower. And now he wants to tell Arjuna, okay, Arjuna, you may understand that you are Atma Swarupa, you may not understand that you are Atma Swarupa. All right, let me right now take it that you still consider yourself and every one of us to be coming and going, coming and going. You are yet not able to understand I am the Najayate Mriyate. That is, I am Ajaha, Nityaha, Shashvataha, Purana, Na Hanyate, Hanyamane Sharire, what we saw in the previous verses. Arjuna, you are not able to understand still. I can accept that. Yes. Temporarily now, let me accept that you still are in this mistaken notion that all these people, including yourself, are mere bodies which are coming and going, coming and going. So let us look at this present situation from that point of view. Right now, I accept that you still are not convinced about that you are the Atma Swarupa. So, what is the argument now that Krishna is going to give Arjuna, considering or accepting Arjuna's doubt, which still persists? That we'll see from the 26th verse up to the 30th verse. We will see Krishna accepting Arjuna's confusion still as valid and telling him, okay, in spite of your confusion, I will tell you, Arjuna, that you have to fight. Now let us see what Krishna has to say in the next 3 or 4 verses. Let's go to the 26th verse. Atham chainam nityajatam nityam va manyase mritam tathapi tvam mahabaho naivam shochitum arhasi. So in the 11th verse, what did he say? Ashocyan anva shochastvam. Your sorrow is not valid. Your sorrow is not in place. Your sorrow is a misplaced sorrow. Now he is bringing that naiva shochitum arhasi. Hey Arjuna, even though you have not understood yourself to be the Atma Swarupa, even though right now you still take yourself and every one of us here to be body, mind, sense complex, still then this sorrow of yours does not really have any validity. Why is it? Now he says, Atham cha yenam nitya jatam. Okay, if you think that you and all of these people are born again and again and again, that means nitya jatam means who appear again and again, born again and again. Athaicha yenam nitya jatam, nityava manyase mritam. So even if you consider that all these people here and all of us are born, gone, born, gone, born, gone. And this has been happening again and again. I have been telling you, you're not born, gone. You are the is always. But you still haven't understood that point. So you are still under the impression that all these jivas, they appear, disappear. So they are born every day, nityam jatam. All the time they are born again and again. Nityam mritam. They die again and again. Die, born, die. They are born, they are. Even then, tathapi tvam he mahabaho. Tathapi, even then, even if you take the jivas are born again and die again and again, he mahabaho. See how he's motivating Arjuna. Mahabaho means, hey, Arjuna, with mighty arms. Because now what has happened to Arjuna? He has forgotten that he's a mighty soldier. In every word that Krishna addresses Arjuna, depending on the context, he uses a number of terms which really actually motivate Arjuna. Hey Mahabaho, hey Arjuna, with mighty arms, naiva shochitum arhasi. Even with all these things, even with your wrong understanding also, your sorrow is not valid. Why is it? Now Krishna himself gives the answer in the 27th verse. What does he say? जातस्य हि ध्रुवो मृत्युः ध्रुवं जन्म मृतस्य च तस्माद् अपरिहार्येऽर्थे न त्वं शोचितुमर्हसि न त्वं शोचितुमर्हसि. You don't deserve to grieve over all these people in this situation. Why? Even if you take that all of us are born again and again, die again and again, it is common sense that jatasya hi dhruvo mrityuhu, right? Anyone who is born has to die. That is known to you, known to us also. Even forget about Atma, Anatma, everything. The one who is born has to die. For death, there is a nimitta. That's all. Everybody needs a reason, some reason, a nimitta for the shariram to end. Whatever it is, that nimitta depending on the prarabdha of the person. If it is the prarabdha of all these people who have gathered here to die in a war, to be killed by the enemy or the Pandavas, and the Pandava army people being killed by the other side, now this is only a nimitta for them to disappear from this body. So jatasya hi dhruvo mrityuhu. Mrityu is dhruva. Mrityu is something which can never be, removed for a person who is born. It is the rule that that which appears has to disappear. That which is born in time has to disappear in time. Whereas Atma is what? Not at all limited by time. Anything which is limited by time, anything which appears in time has to disappear at a point in time, and this body is no exception to that. Dhruvam janma mritasya cha. And any ajnani, any of us who have died, in the sense I explained to you last time, that when the sthula shariram is cast off, the sukshma sharira, karana sharira, and all the accumulated karmas in a bundle, they travel. This traveling jiva, embodies itself in another body, sthula sharira, depending upon what prarabdha karmas are going to fructify in this life. Therefore, nobody can stay forever in the Sukshma Sharira format as a dead person forever. Now, if you ask when and how, at what time will this dead Jiva come back again in a body, that cannot be told, because the time scales in different levels of existence are very different. It is impossible for us to say that a jiva who's now left the Stula Shariram and has traveled will come back after 1 year or after 100 years or in the next kalpa. We have absolutely no idea. And where it will come back, in which particular loka it will come back, in which particular field of experience it will come back, but that cannot be told. But the fact is that any jiva who has left the physical body in the form of what is called as, what we call as death, has to embody itself again sometime or the other, and this is a fact. So birth is a fact, death is a fact. Tasmad apariharye arthe. So this is a choiceless situation. Apariharye arthe means apariharya. That means nothing can be done about it. Now, what is the meaning of apariharya? Choiceless. We have so many choiceless situations in our life, correct? What do we do at that time? We try to do whatever we can to the best of our ability. But if the situation is choiceless, what does one do? One has to go through that situation, understanding that anything that happens in time has to disappear in time. If I have a very, very negative choiceless situation in my life, which I'm facing now, it is definitely sometime or the other going to disappear because it has appeared at a point in time. But this being born and dying is something apariharya arthe. It is a choiceless situation. And in this choiceless situation, what can you do, Arjuna? You can only live the situation, do your best in that. Shoka is not going to help. Will Shoka help me? Will grieving help me in apariharya arthe? Apariharya arthe. In a choiceless situation, what you need, Arjuna, is not Shoka. It is to understand, to accept that, yes, this is a choiceless situation and I have tried my best to do what I can in this situation, but there is nothing more I can do about it. And I surrender to that Ishvara and go through. And whatever I need to do, I continue to do. But at the same time, I surrender to the situation, I surrender to Ishvara, to my Ishtadevata, whatever, and continue to face this situation. And this apariharya artha or apariharya situation does not need shoka or moha or anything else. It just needs me to see it as choiceless. See it as choiceless means that I cannot do anything about it. Let me go through it to the best of my ability, doing whatever I can to the best of my ability. So, hey Arjuna, even with this, you will have to fight this war, as this is something, it's too late now and it has to happen. The war has to be fought, and this is something which is a choiceless situation for you, and therefore natvam shochitum arhasi. You don't deserve to grieve over these people. None of these people deserve to be grieved over, including your own body mind sense complex. And now Krishna explains this again in the next verse in a more clear way. He says here in the 28th verse, he says, Avyaktadini bhutani vyaktamadhyani bharata avyaktanidhananyeva tatra ka paridevana. Now he says, now I'll tell you, Arjuna, what is this birth and death of a particular physical body? What is this? Now, let me tell you, that's what our Shastras say. Now, Krishna is saying, this body was in a potential form before it was born. So, it is avyakta. Avyakta means what? That which was there, but it was there not in a manifest form. It was there in an unmanifest form. It was there in a potential form and waiting to be manifested. And then with a certain reason, for a certain reason, this body mind sense complex, this body was born at a point in time, and what was unmanifest became manifest matter. So, unmanifest matter body became manifest matter, and then it lived its life for some time, and at the time of death again this body disappeared back into an unmanifest form. And the next time when another body came, it is not the same body that came, but when this body goes into an unmanifest or a potential form, another body arises for the same jiva embodiment. The jiva embodies itself into another manifest body. So, what was avyakta before, potential unmanifest matter, became manifest matter called as the body, and at the time of death this manifest body went back into an unmanifest potential form. Now that unmanifest potential karana avastha of this matter, which existed in a subtle causal form, is what is called as prakriti. It is called as avyakta. It is called as maya. And when this body, vyakta body, disappears again, it goes back into the avyakta, prakriti or maya. We will see that in the 7th chapter, prakriti, para prakriti, apara prakriti. We'll see that. So here he says, bhutani avyaktadini. Bhutani means all these living beings, the bodies of all these beings, avyaktadini. They were avyaktas before they appeared. Vyakta madhyani Bharata. Hey Bharata, hey Arjuna, they appeared in the middle somewhere. So they were not there before. But does it mean that they were not there at all? They were not there in this form, in this solid form, in this manifest form. They were there, but in a very, very potential form. And Madhya Vyaktani. Vyakta Madhyani means in the middle, somewhere, they manifested. All these bodies manifested at a point in time, and the bodies which were in the Karana Avastha became manifest into the Karya Avastha, or manifest as the properly seen, felt, solid body that we have. Madhya Vyaktani Bharata. Avyakta Nidhananyeva. Nidhana. What happens at the time of death? Nidhana. Again, the body is avyakta. Now you may say the body is there even after death. Yes, still the body is disposed of. When the body is disposed of by any method, the body is no longer available for manifestation, and it gets merged into its 5 elements. Panchabhautika Deha gets merged into the Panchabhutas, becomes unmanifest again. Tatra ka paridevana. What is there to be sorrowful about it? What are these bodies? Bhishma, Drona, etc. As Atma Swarupas, all of us are imperishable, Nitya, all the time there. But as bodies, none of us are Nitya. We are Anitya because we are Anatma. We are matter principle, therefore we are Anitya. We were there in a potential Karana Avastha earlier, somewhere in the middle, at some time, at a point in time, these bodies appeared as these solid bodies, and after some time they are going to disappear again. We have this experience, everyday experience. We have lost so many people in our families. They were not there before they came, they were there for some time, and then they disappeared. Now for this body to disappear, it does not matter whether the body disappears at the age of 8 or at the age of 18 or at the age of 88. It does not matter. When the purpose of that body is over, for whatever purpose that body came, it goes back into the unmanifest form again. Tatra ka paridevana. Paridevana means there is no need for you to feel sorrowful about it. Where is the need for sorrow? See, Krishna has come down one level now. I hope you're able to see this. He talked from the highest Paramarthika Satyam Atma point of view for 13 verses, 12 to 25. And now, knowing well that Arjuna has not really caught what he has said, He wants to come down to a more practical level, and he's talking to Arjuna from a practical point of view. Even if you accept birth and death as reality, even then be practical. See, you understand that anything that is born has to die, and anything that is born was in a potential form earlier. It has become a manifest form, and that is going to go back into a potential form. So ultimately, what is this physical world, including the body? It is a cycle of unmanifest to manifest, manifest to unmanifest. And this law is followed not only by the bodies, but by the entire universe. Earth was not there millions of years ago. It appeared. Our solar system was not there millions, trillions of years ago. At a point in time, it appeared. It's not going to be there all the time. After another billions of years, it is again going to go back into a unmanifest form. Our sun appeared, all the stars, all the entire physical world, including our bodies, are nothing but avyakta, vyakta, avyakta. So that is potential form, manifest form. Potential form, manifest form. So this entire universe, manifest universe, that universe which we are solidly seeing, the physical universe, is nothing but a constantly cyclical change of unmanifest to manifest form. Now, from the unmanifest form, when the physical world comes into the manifest form, it may not come back in the same form that was there earlier. It comes back in another form which is suitable for its existence now. Now I am in this body in this particular form. Supposing after 1,000 years I have to come back after the death of this body. This body may not be useful after 1,000 years in the same earth. I'll have to probably come back in some other body, some other physical form, which is conducive for survival at that period in that particular place. But the truth is that manifest, unmanifest is the law of universe. In this case, why, Arjuna, are you grieving over these things? Please do your duty. Look at it from a practical point of view. Now, next one he goes to, Krishna wants to tell Arjuna that, look, this knowledge is about oneself. Okay? It is a knowledge about knowing myself. And without knowing what I'm looking for peace, security, and happiness outside me. And at the same time, though I am this Atma Swarupa, I'm not able to perceive myself as what I am. And I'm looking at myself, perceiving myself as something which is perishable, which is there for a short period of time. And I feel I'm a samsari. When I'm actually a swarupam of Ananda, I am actually that Atma which has no blemishes in it, that which cannot be affected by Anatma, that which is the very source of peace and security and happiness, that which is completely devoid of birth and growth and death and vikaras. This Nirvikara Atma I am, this Nitya Atma I am, this Sarvagata Atma I am, this Aprameya Atma I am, this Nirvikari Atma I am, which has been told by Krishna in these 13 verses. But what a wonder it is that I don't know what I am. Okay. It is a wonder if I don't know something, an object which I'm not exposed to. This I'm experiencing every day, and what I'm experiencing every minute, I'm not knowing what that is, what I am. What a wonder in the world, isn't it? It's an ascharya that I do not know myself, and Shruti Vedanta Pramana is shouting from the rooftops, look, you are not this, you are not this, you are having a wrong idea about yourself. You're looking at yourself in a very different way, in a wrong way. This is not the way, this is it. And for years together we listen to Vedanta, but then the body, I am the body, that identification, that body consciousness, or that I am the body, it just does not go ascharyam. At least something else, the objective knowledge. 100 times when I learn that, probably one day I will understand, yeah, correct, it is that. But this Atmajnanam is such that in spite of me being that, I don't know I'm that. And in spite of the Vedanta Pramana telling me all the time, look, you are really that, you are not this. I do not understand it. What kind of an Ascharya this is? And Krishna is talking about this Ascharyam in the next verse, which goes back into the Trishtup Chandas from the Anushtup Chandas. He says, Ascharyavat pashyati kaschidenam, Ascharyavat vadati tathaiva chanyaha, Ascharyavat shrunoti, Shrutvaapyenam vedana chaiva kaschit. So, when somebody tells me for the first time, that what do you think you are? If somebody asks me, who are you? So, what do I say? I'm so and so. Oh, is it? Who are you? I am this body. Okay, no, okay, you are this body. Then who are you? Okay, I'm so and so's daughter, so and so's son, so and okay, you are so and so's relative. Okay, who are you? Oh no, oh me. I was born on such and such a date. Okay, you were born on such and such a date. Who are you? I'm a doctor. Okay, you are a doctor, but who are you? Then a time comes when this questioning goes on. Who am I? It is an ascharya for me. So when Shruti tells me, you are the Atmaswarupa, and all this long list of things you gave about yourself are your attributes. That's why you say, my name is, okay, I am, you don't say who you are. You just say, I was born this time, this one's daughter, living here. You're talking about the attributes of yourself. Who are you? I do not know. Ascharyavat pashyati kaschidyenam. All the time, it's a wonder, it's an ascharya that I do not know what I am. I search for everything in this universe. I want to have the knowledge of all the objects in this universe, but I don't want to know myself. What an ascharya it is. Ascharyavat pashyati kashideva. Even when Vedanta Pramana comes and tells me, you are not this, you are this Atma, it is a wonder for me. Really? Am I this? How can I be this? Ascharyavat pashyati kaschid yenam. Yenam atmanam. This Atma is looked at as though it is something wonderful, something wondrous. It is nothing, it is me. It is my Swarupam. It is my nature. And knowing Vedanta, knowing my nature is not something great. Knowing myself and abiding in my Swarupam, what is great about it? It is the most natural thing that should happen. And I'm living an unnatural life. And when I go to Vedanta, study Vedanta, I feel that, oh, I've done something great because I'm trying to know myself. What an ascharya, isn't it? I mean, why should I know? I should know myself what I am. And here I don't know. And Vedanta is trying to tell me you are not a samsari, you are a samsari because you are identified with, you are entangled with this body, mind, sense complex. You are that unentangled asanga atma, and I can't accept it. I don't see it. What an ascharya. Okay, what a wonder it is that I don't know who I am. And when I am given a definite proof of what I am, still I look at it as a wonder. I don't see what an ascharya it is, what a wonder. Ascharyavat vadati tathaiva chanyaha. Now, the person who's talking about this Atma is also doing a wonderful job. It's a wonder. Why? Atma is aprameya. That means it's not an object that I can perceive. Atma is something which cannot be described in words because it is something indescribable because it's not an object. And still, Vedanta and all the gurus are trying to explain and describe that which is indescribable. Isn't it? Now I'm trying to talk about Atma, which is indescribable. In the previous verses, it was said Atma cannot be described because it is aprameya. It is self-revealing. See the Ascharya. It is self-revealing, but I'm not aware of it. In spite of it revealing itself to me, I don't know I am that. When Vedanta talks about it, it is Ascharya, is it? I don't think so. It's all nonsense. What is being talked? It's all nonsense. So I don't believe it, because again it's an Ascharya. And Vedanta and our gurus, various Prakarana Granthas, Bhagavad Gita, trying to tell Arjuna and us again and again and again and again, hundreds of times, millions of times, the same thing. Isn't it a wonder that a guru and the Shastra is trying to describe something which is indescribable? Again, Ascharyavat vadati tathaiva cha anyaha. Anyaha means the Vakta. So, Ascharyavat chainam anyaha shrunoti. The listener also is listening with wonder. Ascharya. Are, is it? Does it require to be told that you are this Atma Swarupa? For years and years and years, I listened to Vedanta. I listened to the gurus. I am not the body mind sense complex. I am the Atma. I listen. But then, again, like a dog's tail, immediately after that, I go back. Aham Atma Asmi iti, till I get up from the class and go and wear my chappals. That's what Swami Dayanand used to say. That when you wear your chappals, with the chappals, your samsara has come back. Whatever has learnt in the class, I am that Atma Swarupa, gone, gone to the, wherever. Ascharyam, again, it is Ascharyam. Ascharyavat cha yenam anyah shrunoti. The listener is listening to this as a wonder. The speaker, the guru is talking about it itself is a wonder, is because that which cannot be explained. And the last wonder, you see, Shrutva api enam na veda chaiva kaschit. Having listened to it for lives and lives, Shrutva api enam veda, na veda. After listening to it again and again and again also, I do not understand it, or the listener does not understand it. This is the biggest ascharya. The same verse is there in the Kathopanishad also. Ascharyo vakta kushalo jnata. Yama tells Nachiketa. This ascharya, this Atma is a big ascharya. It is a wonder. It is me, myself, but I look for it elsewhere. Can I get Atma Swarupa? Can I know Atma? Can I get moksha? I am the moksha Swarupa Atma. I am looking for it somewhere. Vedas are trying to talk to me about this Atma, which is nothing but myself, and telling me and talking about something indescribable, big Ascharya, wonder. The listener is listening, big Ascharya, wonder. And even after having heard any number of times about this Atma Swarupa, still the listener has not understood this at all. Therefore, it is an Ascharya. But Arjuna, I know that you are also falling in the same category, okay? And since it is such an ascharyam, something which is so obvious is not seen. Something which is so obvious is not understood. Something which cannot be described in words is being described by the Vedas and the Guru. And in spite of knowing it as myself, I'm not able to see it as myself. What an ascharya it is. It is one of the great wonders. This Atma Jnanam is the greatest wonder. And Arjuna, I don't blame you. That's what he's telling here. I don't blame you, Arjuna. If you have not understood what I told you in 13 verses, no problem. Because, you are falling into that normal, okay? It is an utsarga, not an apavada. It is generally not understood. So you're falling in this. So there is nothing for you to worry about it, even if you have not understood it. Therefore, I have told you from the practical point of view. Now, Krishna says, I will sum up the whole thing. Whatever I wanted to tell you about the Atma Swarupa, from the Paramarthika point of view, from the highest truth point of view, I told you. And then I came down to the practical aspect of it also, about birth and death. Now, beyond this, maybe Krishna also knows that he cannot go beyond this, and he sums up whatever he has spoken about Atmajnana from the 12th verse. He says, Dehi nityam avadhyoyam dehe sarvasya bharata tasmat sarvani bhutani natvam shochitum arhasi. Hey Bharata, hey Arjuna, this Atma Dehi, this Atma Dehi is Nityam. Nityam means that which is imperishable, that which is all the time there. Avadhyoham, that which cannot be killed. Avadhyoham, that which cannot be killed, that cannot be destroyed. And where is this Dehi? Dehe sarvasya, sarvasya dehe. This Dehi, this Atma, which is Nityam Avadhyoyam, Nityam plus Avadhyoyam, that which is imperishable, that which is constant, that which is all the time there, and that which cannot be destroyed by anything. We saw that Achedyam, Adahyam, Akledyam, we saw that though too. Nainam Chindanti Shastrani, Nainam Dahati Pavaka, nothing can destroy it, therefore Avadhyoyam. And Sarvasya Dehe Bharata, Sarvasya Dehe, in every body, in all the jivas, this Dehi is Nityam and Avadhyoyam, Ayam Atma. Okay, Yam Dehi, Avadhyaha, it is Nityaha. And then what happens here? Tasmat Sarvani Bhutani. Therefore, this Dehi, which is Anavadhyoyam Nityam, this Dehi is actually the real nature of Sarvani Bhutani. This is the reality of all the jivas, all the lives. Therefore, Arjuna, na tvam shochitum arhasi. So, what started in the 12th verse as a shocyananva shochastvam, he kind of winds up that particular, a shochan. You don't need to really worry about this, and you don't need to have any kind of a shoka or grief that you are going to kill them, because all these people are dehis. This is the summing up of Atma Jnana point of it. Now, still Arjuna has not understood, as usual, like any of us. Now, Krishna comes down to the level of ethics and morality. When Atma Jnana, the highest level of teaching and the practical aspect of teaching, has not worked for Arjuna, now Krishna has come to the next level of ethical and moral duties of a Kshatriya. And he says in the 31st verse, Swadharmamapi chavekshya न विकम्पितुमर्हसि धर्म्याधियुद्धात् श्रेयोऽन्यत् क्षत्रियस्य न विद्यते. Hey Arjuna, you are a Kshatriya. And what is the dharma or swadharma of a Kshatriya? The swadharma of a Kshatriya is to protect the Jagat, protect the Rajya from adharma. And when a yuddha like this comes, a yuddha or a war which has come as a shreyas to you, which is an opportunity for you as a Kshatriya to fight this war, to protect the dharma and protect the entire kingdom from adharma, what more opportunity do you want as a Kshatriya? Such an opportunity comes very rarely to a Kshatriya. And as your Swadharma, it is necessary for you to fight this war. What is your Swadharma? You have accepted as a Kshatriya, protection of people, protection of the entire, your Rajya from adharma. So, Swadharmamapi cha aveksha. Arjuna, forget Atma. Forget the practical aspects of Jatasya hi dhruvo mrityuhu, etc. Just come down to the level of your dharma. You are by Varna a Kshatriya. And it is the Kshatriyas, a Kshatriya should never actually vikampitumara. You are literally vikampana. That means you are afraid to fight this war. It seems in our earlier, like in Rajasthan and all those Rajputs, it is said that it was a pride for them to go fight a war and die in war. And I believe the wives of these Rajputs, when they sent them, they gave them their swords and put the tilak. They never cried, nor did the people who went for this fight. And these people said, you become a Vijayi. Vijayi in the sense, either you win for your Rajyam, for your land, or you die. Don't come back. Don't come back as a defeated person, you know. And all the Rajput women took it as a pride that their husbands died trying to save their motherland. So this is the Kshatriya Bhavana of not only the person who is fighting, but of the entire family. We see that today in those, our defense people who have died and they come. You see the grace and the, the boldness and the attitude of their widows, the attitude of their children, the attitude of their parents. They are proud that yes, my family member has given up his life, for the protection of the country, fighting for the country. So, hey Arjuna, swadharma picha avekshya, taking into consideration your own swadharma also, you cannot, take your foot back. Na vikampitu marhasi. You can't get afraid. There's no question of your getting afraid or dilly-dallying. Vikampitum, dilly-dallying. Should I do? Should I not do? Should I fight? Should I not? No, there is no question of your vikampitum arhasi. Dharmyadhi yuddhad shreyaha anyat kshatriyasya na vidyate. Okay, this dharma yuddha which has come and fallen into your lap, which can either give you this rajyam or which will give you swarga. Because, for viragati, what is viragati? Those who have died fighting for their land, for dharma. A kshatriya's gati is viragati. Viragati means higher loka, swarga. So this kind of a yuddha is not simply a yuddha to just, usurp somebody's kingdom. Dharmyadhi yuddha shreyo anyat. Dharmyadhi yuddhat shreyaha anyat. Yuddhat anya shreyas. Dharma yuddhat anyat shreyas. This dharma yuddha, other than this, there is no other shreya. There is no other good thing for a kshatriya. Therefore, this has come your way. And after so many years of preparation, it has come your way. This is a dharma yuddha. And what more can a kshatriya expect? He should be raring to go. Hey Arjuna, this is not the time to be chicken hearted. You have to be raring to go, because this is an opportunity which every kshatriya waits for. And he says in the 32nd verse, Yadrichhaya chopapannam swargadvaramavapavritam sukhina kshatriyah partha labhante yuddhamidrisham. He partha, prithaya putra patra, sukhinah kshatriya, the kshatriyas who get this type of a yuddham, labhante yuddham idrisham. Idrisham yuddham, this kind of a yuddha opportunity, kshatriyaha labhante, those who get this opportunity, the kshatriyaha, sukhinaha, they are happy and they are blessed. The kshatriyas are blessed who can fight this kind of a war. And yadrichhaya cha upapannam, you didn't go after it. Yadrichhaya, it has fallen into your lap. It has fallen into your plate. It has been given to yadrichhaya. You didn't go warmongering. You did not go because I want to fight a war simply. No, yadrichhaya, it came by itself. And this kind of a dharma yuddha, which literally came and fell into your lap, any kshatriya should be grateful for such an opportunity. And hey Arjuna, you have been presented with such an opportunity. And if you die in this war, Svargadvaram apavritam, this is an open gateway for heaven. This is what is called as Viragati. It is said in the scriptures that such a person who dies, whoever it may be a foot soldier, it may be a Rathi, it may be a Yatirati, whoever it may be, he gets a higher loka, Swarga loka it is. So already the Swarga dwaras are open for you. If you fight this war and if you win, then you have won and protected the Rajya from adharma. If you die in this war trying to protect dharma, the Swarga dwara is open for you. So hey Arjuna, as a Kshatriya, at least look at this war as your duty to fight, and also this duty which you have to do happily, gracefully, grateful to the Lord that you have been given a lifetime's opportunity for you to fight this war. It seems, the soldiers are waiting sometimes that when are we going to use whatever we have learned. Your Arjuna, in your all your Astra Shastras have been there for the last 13 years waiting for this. They're all Divya Astras. You have kept them alive by mantras day in and day out. And you have got an opportunity to use these Divya mantras. Not because you wanted to simply use them on somebody. Yadrichaya cha upapannam, yadrichaya upapannam. It has come to you by the grace of Lord. And you being a Kshatriya, you should not be, running away from this. This is not the time for you to get chicken hearted. And if you don't do this, then you have lost your Swadharma. You are lost to your Swadharma. And you have done a great papa by not following what you are supposed to do as a Kshatriya. In the future, in the further verses, Krishna comes down to the level of even, personal ethical values. And Krishna says that just imagine if you, don't fight this war and run away from the war, what kind of a Arjuna will you go down in the pages of history? Now, how will you be described by the later generations? You are literally a person people look up to. You are a role model, Arjuna, a role model Kshatriya for the other Kshatriyas. And if you run away from this war, forget about Atma Swarupa, forget about Jatasya Dhruva Mrityu, all that you forget about it. Forget about your Swadharma also if that is not the thing. At least think of yourself as to what kind of a person you will be talked about by the future generation and what have you left as an example of a Kshatriya like Arjuna. So this is going to be, the way the second chapter moves in the next few verses. Till the 37th verse, Krishna is going to talk to Arjuna about these things as to from the moral point of view, from the ethical point of view, after having talked about from Swadharma point of view. And then he goes to the next level of teaching of how one should do his kartavyam from the 38th verse. So we will stop with this. Om Nandantu sadhaka sarve vinashyantu vidushakaha अवस्था शाम्भवी मेस्तु प्रसन्नोस्तु गुरुः सदा सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखमाप्नुयात् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।